Hi everyone. Before everything, thank you for the opportunity. We are going to talk about algebra, quadratic inequalities. My name is Antonio Aguilar. Let's start. We're going to solve an example of inequality. And to solve any inequality, the first thing we need to do is to order the terms. Maybe you get an expression, algebraic expression, but the first thing you need to do is to order. What do I mean? The first term must be x power 2, then x power 1, and then they call independent term. However, you need to note that this really is an x power 2 0, because remember, an x power 2 0 must be ever 1. Anything power to 0 except 0 is 1. Then when you have the expression in order before the sign of inequality and then to 0, we need to solve the left side of this expression as a quadratic equation. To solve as quadratic equation, we have different methods. The first and the very common method is factoring. To solve this equation as quadratic equation using factoring, in this case, we need to consider that a, the coefficient of x squared x, is now number 1. So we need to find two numbers that multiply must be 2 in this case, and multiply must be minus 3 in this case, and the cross product must be plus 5 for this equation. So we get those numbers 1 times 2 and 3 times minus 1. The cross product is minus 1. 1 times minus 1 is minus 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 1 is plus 5, the number we needed to find. After this, we consider this expression in horizontal form. So this is 1x plus 3, here we have, and 2x minus 1 equal to 0. That is factoring, the name of the method, because we transform the original expression in factors. One thing times another thing. And to solve that, we use mathematical theorem, that is, if something is multiplied by another thing and the result is 0, the first thing is 0 or the second one is 0. That is a mathematical theorem or mathematical law. And we have here linear equations. To solve is very easy. We use the opposite operation, so this is plus 3, the opposite is minus 3. In this case is minus 1, the opposite is 1, and for number 2 is multiplying x, that is, it's going to pass as dividing. x1 equal to minus 3 and x2 equal to a half are the solutions of a quadratic equation. However, we have not an equation, we have an inequality. So the process is a little longer. Well, I said this is the method of factoring to solve this quadratic equation, but we can use the general formula. To use the general formula, we need to get from original expression in order at first must be in order, the coefficients: a, the coefficient of x squared x, b, the coefficient of x, and c, the independent term. In this case, a is 2, b is plus 5, and c is minus 3. If we substitute these values into the general formula, and then we process the operations, of course we'll get the same results. So we are to consider those results as critical points. After that, we are in the step 3. We are going to graphic the first factor, to graphic the second factor, and to graphic the product. So, for the first factor, we find the critical point as minus 3, and for the second factor, the critical point is a half. For the first factor, before minus 3, this expression is going to be negative, and after minus 3 it's going to be positive, because exactly in minus 3 it's going to be 0. For the second factor, this is going to be negative before a half and positive after a half. Just in a half it's going to be 0. And for the product, we need to use the sign rules, and in that case, you know, minus times minus is positive, plus times minus is negative, and plus times plus is positive. So we'll get something like this. Because we need a negative result, we check in this third line that the expression, the function, is going to be negative from minus 3 to a half. But this is a product, yes, but this product, we said, is exactly the same as the original. Only we transform the original into factors. So the result is the interval that goes from minus 3 to a half. And in this case, for notation, because we need to include minus 3, why we need to include minus 3? Because the original expression says less than or equal to 0. So we need to include the frontier value, that is minus 3. And to include that value, we need to use brackets. In a half, that is the other frontier value, we need to use bracket 2. So the result of this inequality is the interval that goes from minus 3 to a half, including those values. To resume, what did we do? We use this recipe. At first, we order the terms, then we get the solution of quadratic equation by factoring. That solution gives us the critical points. After the critical points, we are going to analyze using a graph the first factor, the second factor, and the product of those factors, because the product of those factors is exactly the original inequality. And from this analysis, we get the interval solution. Thank you very much.